how do I feel about that? I feel a bit sad. There's two parts to that. I'm going to answer this in a long way. So hopefully I will give you a little bit of a story in that response. Fundamentally, I just associate the word influencer with someone who has intentionally used social media as a means to market themselves for whatever goal. I have a totally different story. Well, firstly, I was asked to do my GCSEs, which is your high school education in the UK, when I was 10. So I was very, very, very ahead of my age group. And we were at a school in Myloke. And at the time, they asked us, there was probably about a group of 10 of us, to start studying GCSEs that year. So I wasn't just disassociated from peers because I was naturally gender ambiguous. It's just the way I looked, even though I was much larger and I had horrible teeth. I had none of my style and I had speckled skin at the time. And I'm not going to be bringing out these photographs, so please don't ask me for a glow up because that ain't going to happen. But I was already disassociated because I looked so different to the peer group I was in. But then on top of that, I was in a different class. So I had a real sort of like void throughout my whole childhood because firstly, I recognized that I looked different, not just when I was that young, but when I was going through puberty. I knew that my body was not looking like the people's around me. And I actually left all of the gender specific classes and sought out medical transition help when I was 13. And I've never spoken about this, and I've never spoken about my eczema either, which I no longer have. But to me, it's nothing to do with my work online. And I've wanted to keep a lot of this under the I just don't want to share all this stuff with people. It's got nothing to do with anyone really. And I'm only going into today to describe how I was feeling when I was using the internet as a 13-year-old. And it was the necessity to find people like me. I didn't want to be on my own. I wanted to meet people who looked like me, who had similar stories, who were going through the same issues. And I joined MySpace, and MySpace was not monetizable. I didn't know anything about the difference between a MySpace music page and God knows what. I wasn't looking to become like a touring artist or something like that, even though I am fundamentally, I grew up singing and I love music. I didn't know anything about this. I was a child, for goodness sake. Like, I just wanted to find people like me. And when I started to gain a lot of attention just because I was myself, it was scary. It wasn't a positive. I found it very intimidating. And quite often when I reached a certain level on that platform, I deleted my account and started again because I was like, I don't want to have all this attention. I had people coming up to me and my mum. And so I did this by complete organic need to meet people like myself. And when we started to do collaboration channels like 5AT, Perfect Androgyny, Androgenetics, these were hugely popular because we brought together various different trans people. And I use the word trans as we use it in 2020. In 2007, you wouldn't have referred to everyone as transgender. Now we do because we consider it an umbrella term. Then you would have referred to people who were transitioning as trans and those who were in the midst of deciding as androgynous. So we use different language, but it means the same thing. And I've been doing YouTube for essentially a long, long time. But in terms of my beauty YouTube, I only did that for 3.5 years. It's now been 3.5 years since I stopped. So it's all a full circle. So I do think that it's lovely that people recognize how hard I worked and the amazing content I created, because it really did have an impact on what social media looks like today. And I'm grateful forever for that. But I'm more grateful for the connections I made with my trans audience, because I feel like in that time frame, there hasn't been enough of a real genuine example of someone going out there and doing something well. I know that my example has opened up doors for so many other people. Hopefully that gave you probably the longest answer today, but it made sense of why I choose to do things and where I chose to do things, where it came from. Because really, I think out of all of my peers that I came up with, I put out the least personal content. I kept my story very much close to my heart for a number of reasons, and I won't go into a lot of it for some time now. I will keep a lot of the traumatic things that have happened to me and my personal experience with transition to myself. I'm not ready to speak about it. But I am grateful and I'm humbled by the sheer magnitude of what I've been able to accomplish. And it's just starting.